Good day, I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. It is Tuesday, April the 4th, and we've got CEO Morgan Good of Carlyle Commodities joining us today. Carlyle is a mineral exploration company focused on the Newton gold-silver project in BC. And Carlyle just announced results from its second drill hole on the Newton project near Williams Lake, which has included an intercept of 198 meters of 0.5 grams per ton gold equivalent, which is consistent with the news release of their first drill hole, which came out just a little while before that. And so Morgan is here to tell us some details and insight into those results and what sorts of news we should be expecting in the near term. But please remember, this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the news and the company. Morgan, thank you very much for joining us. And why don't you give us a little bit of an overview and insight into today's news?
Great. Thanks for having me again, Martin. It's nice to see you. Today's news, drill hole number 2 from our phase 1 program. It was about a 250-meter drill hole that was to test the southern boundaries of the known 43-101 inferred resource on the property of just under 1 million ounces. And it was successful in confirming more consistent, contiguous gold and silver credits throughout the majority of the hole, just under 200 meters of, as you said, half a gram gold equivalent. It's another very positive hole that will assist in adding tonnage and ounces to the overall inferred resource in future. But I think more importantly, is consistent with our first hole, which we released a couple of weeks ago, which I believe was just subsequent to our last webinar that we did. So a lot of your audience and listeners and watchers may not have been aware of that. And if they check back on our news, they can see that we drilled a pretty amazing intercept of just under 700 meters of just over half a gram gold. So that ties in nicely with hole 2 as such that that first hole really almost doubled the depth of our known inferred resource, as the majority of the historic drilling was, predominantly around 350 meters of depth. To be able to pull 700 meters from just below surface of over half a gram is extremely exciting. And we believe that the depth and width of the sort of bottom half of this deposit can be exponentially grown. So that is a tremendous drill hole for the company, very exciting since there's never been anything done like that on the property before. And again, the second hole results that came out today confirm more consistency in the deposit. And we're really excited because sometime in the next week or two, we're expecting to release our third hole from phase 1, which was also a very monstrous length hole of 774 meters, also testing at depth of the known inferred resource. So that should be a pretty exciting hole. And as I say, assays should be out in the next week or two.
So the hole announced today, hole 2, how close or far was that to how much did you extend out the deposit area?
Sure. Hole 2 was collared approximately 115 meters to the south of hole 1's location.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as deep. We were testing the southern boundary of the known resource. And so we wanted to just sort of confirm that its metrics on the southern side were there, which we believe we have done by today's news. Hole 3, it was collared approximately 100 meters to the north of hole 1. So they sort of go in hole 1 was in the middle, hole 2 to the south, and hole 3 to the north. So again, once we get the results from hole 3, we'll be able to combine all of this data, be able to really understand, particularly at depth, what's going on here at the Newton deposit. And I think that will really assist Jeremy Hansen and our technical crew in formulating a really strategic, detailed strategy around what a phase 2 drill program should look like for a little later this spring.
All right. And these holes extended out the historic resource, or were kind of just reconfirming what had already been there? So or have you grown the potential resource? Because
we certainly believe that the first hole will grow it. Of course, until we do an updated resource calculation sometime down the road, I can't speak, I can't confirm those ideas, but I can tell you that it's, from a technical perspective, if you were to talk to our VP Exploration and any other geologist, they would be very confident in saying that the depth of the inferred resource is certainly there, which we did not know before, which obviously warrants a lot more follow-up drilling at some deeper levels and to expand from where that first hole's depth went to.
Yeah.
But again, this hole 3 being of significant depth, again, 774 meters, I mean, 3/4 of a kilometer deep, is a huge hole. And so that being further to the north, combined with, in particular, the first hole's results, there's going to tell us and paint a really interesting picture for what's happening sort of below that 300-400 meter depth range.
For sure. Okay. And then once you get the data from the next hole, then you're going to go kind of back to the engineering room, interpret that data, and then go on to your additional drilling further in a little bit later this spring.
Yeah, that's correct. And obviously there was 128 historical drill holes of nearly 35,000 meters of drilling prior to Carlyle's first ever phase of drilling on the property, which was just over 2,000 meters. So, we're upwards of 37,000 total meters at Newton. So there was a lot of historical data, so we've got some other ideas and some other sort of lower hanging fruit, if I may, or other interesting higher priority zones that we would like to test in phase 2 regardless. But the results from particularly holes 1 and hopefully hole 3 are going to paint an even extra couple of chapters as to what phase 2 will look like. And I expect that once we sort of formulate that strategy, put together a budget over the coming weeks, sometime later in the month of April, we'll have a much better sense of what phase 2 will look like, likely in the neighborhood of 5,000 meters of drilling instead of 2,000 meters. And obviously with the latest macro events happening in the precious metal sector, particularly gold, I think that, there'll be a lot of interested parties out there to participate in the upcoming financing rounds the company will have planned.
For sure. What are your thoughts on stepping back to the macro picture? What are your thoughts on the gold action price over the last few weeks with the banking turmoil down in the States with SVB?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because I don't like to see such negative press from a macro perspective, but at the same time, it's the type of thing that creates that volatility in precious metals and hard assets are safe haven. Obviously, people have been banging the drum on gold for a long time, and a lot of guys can start saying, "You see, I told you so," even though it's taken many, many, many years. I only think things are going to get more bullish for the precious metals. And I just think that this is probably going to be the biggest year of opportunity, particularly for small caps. As we know, they sort of are at the end of the trough. And even with this leg up in gold in the last, call it 30 to 45 days, it's really only the majors and the producers that have seen a bit of a movement of the needle. Some of the mid caps and of course, the small caps seem to follow. So we still feel we're extremely undervalued as we head into spring and summer exploration season.
All right. Well, with that, anything else we should highlight from the recent news or upcoming events? One more drill hole interpretation, then a phase 2 later on later on in the spring, but that's not too far away. 6-8 weeks away, you can be out there drilling again.
Yeah, no, it's a workable 12 months of the year. So really, it's just a matter of making sure we have the right strategy. We have the right budget plans. Most of that is sort of already penciled in, but give us a couple of more weeks here and we'll know a lot more. And then, that's about it. I'm just excited to test some of these other targets. And again, I'm really excited to see what the assays from hole 3 tell us. Hopefully next week, we'll be able to know what those are.
Excellent. Morgan, thank you very much for joining us and giving us that update. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Chat soon.